we were hesitant to share this with you guys because there's a lot of personal things that we're going through, personal family things, and we were a little hesitant to share that openly on YouTube. But we read this quote from Ellen White when she was having her vision of the narrow way, and she said that as you pass by on that cliff, you will see blood on the walls of those who've gone before you, to give you the courage and strength to know that there have been those who have gone and walked this way before you. Be encouraged to keep moving on forward. And so we were like, we want to tell this because I think there are plenty of videos out there that say to move to the slow living, the cottage core. It looks so great. But there are real struggles, not only physically, but financially and spiritually and
internally, especially with those expectations.
And so if we can share how God has been moving in us, we hope that it's an encouragement to you to keep pressing forward.
Hello, everyone.
Hi there. It's been a while.
Yes, September was a crazy month for our families, both our families.
And it has been a lot. It has been a lot, and we don't have a fall garden. And it was kind of embarrassing because I was like, we have a whole channel on farming and gardening and homesteading and
plenty of learning experiences.
Lots of lessons and a lot of lessons that we're going to share with you today.
So we're doing our devotional, and we've been studying the children of Israel and their journey, and it's provided a lot of insight, especially as we see correlations with what we have gone through in the past and what we're going through even now. And so we just wanted to share some of those insights and lessons with you guys.
For those who don't know our story, we moved from the city of Miami to the country, to the countryside. We wanted to leave city living and start raising our family in the country, in the rural areas, for our spiritual and physical health and growth. And we made that move almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We've been in Georgia and Tennessee, and finally we have our 12-acre homestead here in the beautiful mountains of Alabama.
Despite the financial challenges and lack of experience, God has blessed us in our journey out here. And I think that's the journey of the children of Israel. It was a nonstop journey.
We've encountered lots of challenges to the point where, I've wondered, was this a good choice? And just a lot of questions and doubting that we've had to face moving out from the city where there's a bunch of conveniences and jobs to the country where it is scarce. And I feel like we spend our days, playing in the dirt.
As a friend put it. So my expectation was taking a city salary and bringing it into this country life in order to provide for my family and what needs to get done here on the farm. Yeah, it's a big challenge.
Yeah, and we've spent many nights just wondering, like, God, you took us out of Egypt, but why the wilderness? Why not the promised land yet? Flowing with milk and honey. That's kind of what we expected. The realities of rural living could punch you in the face if you're not ready.
Yeah, it could really kick you in the teeth.
Kick you in the teeth, punch you in the gut, slap you in the head, give you a clase.
I think they get the idea.
But it surely has done that for us, and those expectations and the realities are really pushing us. And looking at the children of Israel story, I think it's given us a lot of hope and perspective, and I pray that it does for you too. I don't know where you are in your journey or where God is calling you to be or to go, but when you're going through the troubles, it is so quick to forget how God has led you in the past. But that is a very important thing to remember, is how God has led us to the past. We're kind of looking at our Red Sea and we're like, I don't know, God. We forget how miraculously he took us out of the city.
So let's dive into the story. I think that's a good place to start, at the Red Sea. So at the Red Sea, they had this huge roadblock in front of them.
Right.
And it essentially halted their progress. They were like, okay, how can we move forward with this huge obstacle? And then, to make matters worse, is Pharaoh pursued them, and he's after them. And so, if I know some of them wanted to go back at that time.
The Israelites.
The Israelites. Some of the Israelites wanted to go back at that time.
Yeah.
But in some respects, there's no going back.
And in Exodus 14, verse 11, the children of Israel start crying out to the Lord and said, verse 11, because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you so dealt with us to bring us up out of Egypt? And then in verse 13, Moses says, do not be afraid, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever.
I think with financial struggles, I wish I could hear that statement said of financial struggles. Like, the financial struggles you see today, you will see them no more.
Yeah, just gotta claim, and honestly, just to give some perspective, we're coming from the city where we both were working. We were both working and we only had one child at the time. And thankfully, because of our family situation, we were able to leave our child with our parents. But we left 2 incomes, and then we moved out, and then we started relying on single income, and I stayed home with the children. And that was already a big sacrifice. And then we move out to the country, and then jobs are scarce, and resources are scarce. He brought us here. It was a miracle how we got here. And
the journeys, the pit stops that God has taken us over the last 10 years, the communities that we've been privileged to be a part of over the last 10 years, and the lessons that we've had an opportunity to learn,
right.
It could only be God that orchestrated those things. And so it's almost like you know this is where God would have you. You've seen his providence move. But still those struggles seem to eclipse all that's come before.
And both of us having been raised in homes, in religious homes, in Adventist homes, where we both went to church and studied the Bible and had family worship, all of these ideas are not unfamiliar to us. However, to put that into practice is a different story.
Yeah, learning by doing, just
It's like,
experientially.
Yeah,
Having to put that persevering faith into practice, having to put that trust in God into practice.
Yeah.
When you could very well just move your family out to the city, get a job, and rely on what you can bring in.
Yeah, just go back. It's
Yeah.
so much easier, in theory, because sometimes I romanticize going the city life, forgetting that I was in the city life praying to get out of there because it was crazy. And we didn't have any time together as a family. And things were always so busy, and rent was incredibly high, and there was so much crime and all of that stuff. Like, I romanticize it in my mind because I'm now here. And I think that's what the children of Israel were doing. They were like, let's go back. Even later on in the book of Exodus, they're saying, I would have preferred the flesh pots of Egypt, as if the manna is not enough, because they had to rely on God day by day, moment by moment. They couldn't rely on their own strength.
Not even the food that they couldn't even hoard food. They couldn't even save food. And when you think of any financial counsel, saving is a huge part of that. And here God's saying, no, don't even save your food. Trust that I'm going to provide.
Yeah.
Not to say that saving isn't important to do now, but it was an exercise in trusting that God would provide for them daily.
Yes, this is not the promised land. Sometimes we think, oh, the 100-acre country home with a beautiful farmhouse and aesthetic furnishings is the promised land when it is not. And maybe God isn't giving that to us because if we did, we would lose our salvation and we would be like Lot's wife and look back.
So, children of Israel are at the Red Sea. They can't go back because Pharaoh is pursuing them. So obviously they can't go back. And it seems like they can't move forward. And what does God do as they cry out to him? He prepares a path forward towards where he would have them to be. And so he miraculously opens the Red Sea, allows them to walk on dry ground. Just to put that in context to our situation, I think we're at a point where we know too much to go back.
Yeah, with everything that's happening in this world.
And what we know
Yes.
and what we've experienced as far as our children's development out here in the country, even
And
our development.
because of reading the word.
Yeah. There's too much. We
know.
personally know too much to go back.
Yeah, to go back to the city. It's just, no.
And so, like, with that being said, our only option is moving forward. And that's where we're trusting God to help us as we move forward. And he's showing, just like in that moment, he sent a wall of fire to block the Egyptians from coming after the Israelites.
Yeah.
In the same way, he is showing himself even now. With this huge roadblock ahead of us, he's still showing himself. Seen him work in the past.
Yes. Yeah.
I see him working even now.
With that wall of fire.
With that wall of fire. I'm going to trust that he's going to make a path forward. And that's where we are. We can't go back again. We're doing all we can on our part here while trusting God to help us move forward in where he's bringing our journey and our family's journey.
Right.
And so God shows up again. He parts the Red Sea. They walk through.
But the hard part isn't over.
No, in fact, the next chapter, or chapter 15, they come to an area. Their resources, everything that they got from the Egyptians, all the resources that they brought out of Egypt with them, start to dwindle. And their savings, have we been there?
Yes.
Yeah, we've been there at least 3 times now.
Yeah.
All your savings as you're looking for an opportunity to make a new life, find lucrative work.
To pay for all of that.
While relying on savings and what's coming in.
You just wonder, like, God,
Where are you?
where are you? Have you forsaken us? Like, did God decide now he's going to leave us, you know?
And so
It's
they're
kind of,
they're running out of water, and Moses, being in that area, knows that the water that's available at Marah is
bitter.
not fit for drinking. Right?
Right.
It's bitter.
So he's even like,
Oh, what
Yeah.
are you doing, God? Why are you leading us this way?
yeah.
And,
wow. But he's trusting.
And he's
He's
trusting. So Exodus 15, verse 23, we'll start at 23, says, "And when they came to Marah, they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Marah. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? And he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them, and said, If you will diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord your God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon you, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that heals you." And so here God shows up again and shows them who he is. But he doesn't remove this struggle. He allows them to go to this period where their resources are growing low.
But why was it so hard It was hard because there's nothing that we could do. It was nothing that they could do. It was hard because they had to trust. And sometimes the best thing we can do for our spiritual, emotional, physical health is to let go and let God. And after, there's that song, after you've done all you can, you just stand.
And be true.
Okay, but yeah, that's all. And sometimes we think that that's hard because we're so used to doing and accomplishing and just getting things done. That's the city mindset. Don't take that city mindset out to the country, because yes, you gotta work hard out here in order to have a full-on garden and homeschool your children and do what you got to do out here and take care of the land. You have to work hard. But there is a point in our day where we truly have to let God handle things. After we've done all we can in setting up our garden, and then the next day we see that prairie dogs and deer and whatever other beast is out here has just
Mowed down your sweet potato leaves.
What do? Do you just say, heck with this, we're going back, just go to the grocery store? Because honestly, going to the grocery store is easier until there's no grocery store, until there's no food there, and it's even in this period, God is teaching us how to have peace in obedience. Because honestly, for so long, I felt like the struggle, just like them at Mara, the struggle was this trial, the bitter water. But the struggle really is delayed obedience. I don't want to let God handle it. I want to handle it myself. And I want to handle it now. And I want it to be done now. I want the solution open and clear now.
And in this way.
Yes.
And so really, they had to go through a series of struggles because what God was trying to do is develop a spirit of trust in them.
So what experience are you going through right now where God is really trying to tell you, trust me? Are you looking for a country home? Have you been looking for a while? Are you seeing your children go sideways and byways and you're just like, God, we need a way out. I need a way to connect with them. I'm stressed out at my job. What is it? Could you already be in the country like us and seeing your resources dwindle? Seeing that, this life is hard. Wherever God has placed us, it is so important for us to just trust him and lean on his word and remind ourselves of who he is.
These trials are meant to reveal not only who God is, but also reveal who we are. Because I know there's a lot of tough conversations that I've had with myself and tough realizations that I've had for myself that I had blinders to when things were a lot easier to see. Seeing issues of pride come up. I'm seeing even some issues of anger, frustration, and it's almost like, oh wow, thank you for revealing this this chink in my armor, so to speak.
Yeah, it's like,
how am I supposed to feel it? Like,
God.
Exactly.
God.
And that's where the trust comes in.
And that is actually beautiful. It's a beautiful gift that we have the Holy Spirit to guide us through those realizations, because God is really interested not only in providing our daily needs, but preparing us to meet him and reside with him in heaven. So if he has to put us in those situations where he's drawing out your pride and revealing the anger within me, whatever those are, he wants us to submit that and lay that down at his feet. How would we know that when things are going easy peasy, Like, our true characters are revealed in those moments sometimes. In those tests. And
stress test.
We were hesitant to share this with you guys because there's a lot of personal things that we're going through, personal family things, and we were a little hesitant to share that openly on YouTube. But we read this quote from Ellen White when she was having her vision of the narrow way, and she said that as you pass by on that cliff, you will see blood on the walls of those who've gone before you, to give you the courage and strength to know that there have been those who have gone and walked this way before you. Be encouraged to keep moving on forward. And so we were like, we want to tell this because I think there are plenty of videos out there that say to move to the slow living, the cottage core. It looks so great. You're frolicking in the woods, you're baking bread all day, you're sewing, you're rocking on your porch. But there are real struggles, not only physically, but financially and spiritually and
Internally, especially with those expectations.
And so if we can share how God has been moving in us, we hope that it's an encouragement to you to keep pressing forward. This is not a time to get distracted. This is not a time to go off course. Whatever course he decides to take us on to get us ready for that, I pray that we can obey and have the strength. And I pray that our testimony can be just a little bit of that strength for you.
Because honestly, up there is the true promised land.
This is it.
Yeah, Jesus said, in this world you will have troubles, but I give you my peace, that where I am, there you will also be. So ultimately, his goal is to have us in heaven with him. Even if he's got to take us through some trials and some troubles. You know, considering my role as a provider, realizing the struggles and navigating the struggles and challenges that we've gone through. There was a lot of financial stability to a certain extent in the city. And I'm looking at the hardships that we've had to endure financially as I'm continually looking, for viable employment. And so I have had to rely on God as the ultimate provider. And when I do that, I see him providing our needs. I see him providing work opportunities for me. I see him providing resources for us, being here.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like how it did in the city.
With the surplus.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it did in the city with the surplus that you could
just go on vacation.
Yeah. And so that's been like challenging. But what has given me hope is that even when you look at the patriarchs, Abraham, Joseph, when you look at their lives, they made some critical mistakes. God did not leave them.
Man.
And so that's been very hopeful for me, who can be a perfectionist sometimes and expect that if I do the right thing, then I can expect this good result. Or if I do the wrong thing, if I make a mistake, then it could be a serious detriment.
And
right?
all is lost.
Yeah.
But
and so here,
God is so gracious.
He is so gracious. He did not forsake his people in the past, and he will not forsake us now.
And we are so thankful to be in a country home, surrounded by peace and quiet and stillness, surrounded by nature, which is God's second book, because there's a plethora of lessons that we learn about God's character out here in nature. And honestly, we wouldn't take the time to focus on that if we weren't here. And something that we've been doing a lot is worshiping together and praying together and studying God's word together, more than I think we've ever have done. Honestly, to stay on the same page. And we count our blessings every evening at worship with the children, and sometimes we lose our breath counting those blessings. And we have to remind ourselves that God is not finished with us. Our promised land and our home is not in this world, but it's in heaven. So whatever path he gives us on this earth, we want to be able to say that it is well. It is well with my soul.
Yes. And he